I, for one, not interested in dying. How do I do eyeliner and tell you about a deadly virus? It's a good-looking virus. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Wherever you are, hi, my name's Lena. If you haven't been here before, I'm a 30-year-old woman from the Midlands, England, and I have a lot of questions about the coronavirus vaccine. Oh, you do too? Perfect. Grab a friend, three's a party, let's get going. By the way, if you're wondering if there's a man playing oboe outside your house, no, it's my house. There is a man behind that wall learning the oboe from scratch, and he has been for most of lockdown. We support a hobby. It's a hard time for everyone. I hope you'll join me in supporting him in his craft. Something that soothes me is watching somebody do their makeup while telling me incredibly important facts. Here are two of my favourite YouTubers who do it. Today, I thought we could pay some lip service, unmask the truth, leave nothing concealed, and make sure that nobody feels like they need to blush for their basic questions. I'm teaming up with the NHS, and to be very clear, when I say teamed up, because I know that's used in a lot of different contexts on the internet, there is no money being exchanged. There is not really any prior connection with me and the NHS at all, but they've agreed to fact check everything I say in this video. And we also have the wonderful GP, Nikita, on call to answer our more nuanced questions.
Hi there, I'm Nikita Kanani. I'm a GP in South East London, but I'm also Medical Director for Primary Care at NHS England and NHS Improvement, and focusing completely on the vaccination programme at the moment.
It's been a hard time for everybody, and I know there's been a lot of misinformation flitting about on the internet. So even if you do know a lot of these answers, I hope you'll use this video as a resource to share with your friends and family, or if you're in those kind of awkward conversations where you're like, I know that's not true, but I can't really completely explain why, please consider this NHS approved facts. It's been an excitable year, stagnant yet exciting, and I'm personally really excited to get my vaccine. I know that not everybody feels that way, and that's what I want to talk about today. I asked you guys on Twitter for your most heard or most worried about questions about the vaccine. I've taken the most requested ones and ordered them in order of slightly batty to I also don't know that. And we're going to work our way backwards. Okay, let's go. It has got a GPS tracker in it / Bill Gates has had something funny to do with this vaccine. I think we have a lot of questions to get onto, so I'm just going to say like a blanket no to this. There are no tracking devices or nanotechnology in the COVID vaccine. It is a favourite rumour of the internet, but it's just not true. And believe it or not, the NHS have verified that. My advice is if this is just a passing comment from a relative or friend and you're not sure whether they do believe it, just bring up the point that if like somebody did hypothetically want to track a whole population, you'd think they just use the phones that we carry around with us everywhere. No? Anyway, number 2, it will change your DNA. So this is something that's often talked about in relation to mRNA vaccines. By the way, this is all stuff that I have learned through research. I don't think I'd actually use the word pandemic until the beginning of 2020 in a sentence ever. So it's completely understandable that people do have questions about the virus, about how to tackle the virus, because none of us were scientists at the beginning of this, apart from the people who were actually scientists. Hi, scientists. I'm sorry about this. An mRNA vaccine gives genetic instructions to our cells. It literally goes in as like, hey, I've got some info for you. Here's a leaflet on how to make viral or bacterial proteins themselves. They are genetic instructions that are given to our cells, and our immune system learns and then builds up its capabilities. It glows up, if you will. You won't? That's fine. Finding sleep in your eyes at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Just lockdown things. The corona vaccine cannot alter your DNA. There is nothing in the vaccine that could do that. The vaccine can give you COVID. It's literally impossible for the COVID vaccine to give you COVID. You might experience side effects which are very different from symptoms after having the vaccine. I'm going to forget to do my makeup when all this is happening, aren't I? I know some of you makeup people are thinking, she needs a beauty blender. And to that I say, sustainable, plastic free, completely washable, Fingers, my favourite. God's own beauty blender. So, like, side effects that you can experience are sore arms, feeling tired, having a headache, and maybe just being a little bit sick. But that shouldn't last longer than a week. If you do get that kind of thing, it's often confused with COVID, but it's very much a side effect and not a symptom of COVID. And it usually should be able to be treated with normal painkillers. A little pop of paracetamol. We love to see it. If you do have symptoms that go on for longer than a week, you can call 911. No, you can't. Definitely don't do that. If your symptoms go on for longer than a week, you can call 111 if you're worried, but that's, you'll be fine. Medical advice with Lena, you'll be fine. Essentially, your body is learning how to tackle COVID. It's like a training session in the Hunger Games, if you will. Like, you'd be exhausted after doing a whole training session for a marathon and need to lie down. That's what your immune system would have after training to fight COVID. Vaccines are unnatural. I have a real confusion around people using the word natural in this context. If somebody uses it, it's worth digging in deeper as to what they mean when they say natural. We eat foods every day that could be deemed unnatural. We often take paracetamol in everyday life, which isn't very natural. If you were born in the UK, you'd likely received a lot of vaccines as a child. All, you guessed it, unnatural, but they did stop you dying. And death itself, I guess, is very natural, but I, for one, not interested in dying. Not for me. Thank you. Vaccines have been around for a very long time and have saved thousands, perhaps millions of lives. They're the most effective way to protect ourselves from COVID and other stuff like flu and HPV. And they go through a myriad of tests and trials before being given the thumbs up and jabbed into the arms of you and me. Vaccines are just profitable. We can just do herd immunity. I don't feel equipped to answer that one, so we're going to go over to Nikita.
So one of the challenges about letting this virus rip through our population is that when you get the virus, you might get a mild version, but you might get a really serious version. And some, we don't know which one you're going to get. For some people, they get a mild version, feel much better, but end up with something called long COVID or post-COVID syndrome. And I have patients and friends who have symptoms now of long COVID or post-COVID for almost a year later. So, they are still exhausted, they still get temperatures, they're still unable to do the things that they love doing. So that's one part of it. The other part is obviously if you get a more serious version of COVID, and we certainly still see younger people in ITU with COVID. So being able to avoid getting hospitalised or dying from COVID is really, really important. It isn't just letting this awful virus rip through the population. And that's why we need to make sure that everybody takes up the vaccine when they're offered it.
If you already had COVID, you don't need the vaccine. I can see why this one might make sense. It's a good answer, but it's the wrong one, as a game show host might say. It isn't true. Your body will make antibodies if it has COVID. Applause where applause is due. But we don't actually know how long those last for, and evidence suggests it isn't a permanent kind of immunity. So the COVID vaccine will prepare you for future infections and make sure you don't get really ill. If you've had a normal flu vaccine, that's enough. So the flu and the coronavirus are two separate things. First off, congratulations on your flu jab. I applaud you. However, not the same thing. The flu vaccine, there's a clue in the name, will stop you from getting flu. The COVID vaccine will stop you from getting COVID. That would kind of be like saying, oh, I don't need to lock my front door at night because I've locked the windows, So originally I was thinking of doing a makeup look based on the NHS logo, which I do love. We love a blue. But no offence, guys, it's just one colour. And I realised it wasn't designed for 30-year-old women sitting on the floor to base makeup looks off. But I'm thinking actually maybe I'm going to go for a makeup look based on COVID itself. Here she is. It's a good-looking virus. Shame about her attitude, not a fan of that, but she dresses well, as all good storybook villains do, for some reason. Seen some whites, some reds. It contains mercury, dead babies, embryos, pork gelatin, and it's not halal. And because the answer is the same for all of them, I thought I'd put them in one question. All of those things are indeed in the world, but they are not in this vaccine. The ingredients of the COVID vaccine are not a secret. You can look them up. And as great as a TV show that would make, fortunately, your life isn't a TV show. Conspiracy theories are fun, you know, when we're thinking about podcasts, books, but this just isn't one of them. I'm sorry. This contains no pork, no gelatin, no mercury, no embryos, no dead babies, and no conspiracy theories. No fun, basically. But whoever is making up these rumours, I will happily help them get their debut novel published, because it's a great show of creativity there. I'll leave links to where you can read the ingredients list of the COVID vaccine below. They will also give you a list of all the ingredients when you go and get your vaccine at the centre. And I hate saying this. Pfizer and the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine have been approved for use for vegans as well. Hurrah! We love a vegan product that also saves lives. Nikita did also have some thoughts on this though, because I think it is like an interesting worry that should be addressed accurately.
Absolutely. I know people worry about the ingredients of the vaccine, but it's really important to read up yourself if you're worried about what the vaccine contains. You can see that the COVID vaccine has been approved for use by vegans. It doesn't contain any pork gelatin. It certainly doesn't contain any embryos. And it is deemed safe to use by many of our Islamic associations. And so they've given their support to the vaccine as well.
If you have an autoimmune disease, it can kill you. So the truth is, any medicine or vaccine does have potential side effects, and you should always make an informed decision when taking something. That's why I'm here. That's why this video exists in this weird box. But the risks are really, really small. And all vaccines go through really strict tests and trials before anything happens. So everyone is as confident as they can be that it won't have any side effects for you. If you do have an autoimmune disease, it's also just worth noting that there are huge risks if you don't take the vaccine. So there's no risk-free situation here, but that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to inform you, keep you informed so you can make an informed decision.
If you do have an autoimmune disease, actually you're more likely to be prioritized to get the COVID vaccine because you're going to be more at risk from the effects of COVID itself. So if you're worried, when you're called up to come in for your vaccine, please do talk to your GP team or your healthcare team so that you can be reassured. But the most important thing is you are often more at risk if you have a pre-existing condition or an autoimmune disease. So that vaccine is going to really protect you.
Number 10, it can cause more harm to non-white communities / BAME communities are being experimented on. These are incredibly serious claims and nobody is being experimented on. I hope for very obvious reasons I'm going to refer to my conversation with Nikita for this, but I'm also going to link a really good radio show episode I listened to all about people ringing in and talking about the socio-economical reasons around this issue that was also incredibly helpful when we're listening to people's experiences. So I'll leave that below as well, but here it's me and Nikita talking about it.
I really understand where people from ethnically diverse communities are worried about taking what feels like a new vaccine. First of all, remember that now millions of people have had the vaccine. And I do recognise that some communities feel that there's been a history of experimentation. But please remember that these vaccines have been trialled on all communities, and there's no evidence to suggest that people from non-white communities have greater risks or side effects from the COVID vaccine. But actually, people from ethnically diverse communities or non-white communities are often more at risk of COVID itself. So nobody with COVID, with the COVID vaccine is being experimented on, but this is your best chance of protecting you and your families.
People have died from taking the vaccine and it's being covered up. Again, would make an amazing TV show. And I recognise that we have all been indoors for a long time now. There's no evidence to suggest that anybody has died as a result of having the vaccine. And you know me, I love to be suspicious of the government, but not for fun and only with due reasons. The government publish data on the side effects and the results of those side effects every week. You can find it on the gov.uk website and I will link it below as well, just so you can research it yourself and see. It's not a true one, and personal statement here, spreading rumours like that can cause real death rather than the death that is referred to in the rumour. And I think it's incredibly serious. So if you hear it, talk about it. Send them links, receipts, Receipts will save the world, I swear to God. If you do get a strong reaction to the vaccine, it means that you've had COVID before. Again, this one kind of made sense to me in some way. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe that's true, but there's no evidence for it. We don't know that. It's probably not true, but there's no evidence for it. It hasn't been tested properly and some ingredients are new. Like the word natural, the word new, I think needs to be interrogated a little bit here. I have often felt like a guinea pig during the past year, so I can understand why this one is appealing to believe. I'm nibbling throughout the whole day, rarely see anyone else from my species, and I've been wearing some pretty flashy coats. However, so when they're developing vaccines, they obviously get people to test it. Clinical trials in this case were sped up, but the reason that it was developed so quickly is because thousands of people all stepped forward pretty fast to test it. So this illusion that because it's been rolled out faster, it hasn't been tested as thoroughly. Thorough testing requires a quantity of people, not an amount of time. Does that make any sense?
You know, it does feel fast, but it was amazing. That is a positive thing. We had a global pandemic, and as the pandemic kicked off, all around the world, people came together, which is unusual. Usually it's done, research is done in quite separate ways. This is the first time that we've had a proper global effort, and that started at the beginning of 2020. So people came together, scientists, researchers, people who could fund the trials, which meant that we could get moving much faster. And lots of people volunteered to take part in the trials, which, you know, we don't often get these numbers, but over 45,000 people took part from a range of backgrounds. And when those trials happened, they happened at the same time rather than one after another. So normally what happens is you do a trial, you submit the data, you review it, and then you do another trial. But this meant that things could be sped up a lot more. And the vaccine has had to go. It's really important for people to know that no stages of the assessment process were missed or skipped out. Every single trial and test that had to happen, as for any other vaccine or medication, had to happen for the COVID vaccines, so that we know that it's both safe and effective.
Usually vaccine and drug testing is really hard to get people to volunteer to be part of the studies, but what can I say? Sometimes people are just nice. If you're one of the volunteers, thank you. If I see you in person after all this is over, I'll buy you a beer. How's that? It can affect your fertility. This is one I've heard from some of my friends and family actually. And I really want to talk to Nikita about it because there is no evidence that it will affect your fertility at all, but I understand that it's an important issue for a lot of people and I want to give it a full answer.
And I've heard this with patients and with colleagues as well, but there is no evidence to suggest that the COVID vaccine can affect your fertility. And in fact, getting COVID when you're pregnant can be really, really dangerous for you and for your baby. So getting protected before you get pregnant is actually really important.
It causes miscarriages or isn't safe for pregnant people. So this one was interesting. Scientifically, there is no risk of giving an inactivated virus or bacterial vaccines or what are called toxoids during a pregnancy. However,
like any other vaccine or medication, we don't test them in trials on people who are pregnant. But what's happening now, and as you'll know, is that more and more people are having the vaccine when pregnant because they've got another health condition and they've all been well since. So it's really important to know that if you're offered the vaccine in pregnancy, it's because you're at higher risk of the COVID infection, of getting a serious complication. So it's important to take up the vaccine to prevent that complication.
It can cause issues with breastfeeding. Again, there is no associated risk with this, and I could say this in a more technical way, but essentially the JCVI says go for it. The Oxford vaccine is less effective than the Pfizer or other COVID vaccines are more effective than others. Any COVID vaccine is going to protect you from COVID. Yes, during the clinical trials, it was shown that different vaccines have different levels of effectiveness, but any vaccine is going to protect you, and I'll take whatever you've got. And I worry that maybe people are using that as a way to be like, oh, I don't want it because it's not effective yet, or I'm getting the one that I don't want. They're all effective. They're all going to potentially save your life. So while this is a valid question, all questions are valid here, I worry that it can be used as a distraction. Once you've had the vaccine, it's safe to go out as normal. Lads, no. Obviously, we all want to go back to the beer gardens, finger some books in some bookshops, stick my fingers in the makeup pot testers at Boots. I'm nostalgic about all of it. But right now, it can still be spread from person to person, whether you have had a vaccine or not. And we're trying to protect as many people as possible. Come on. The vaccine is there to protect you from it getting, and here's a technical term for you, real bad. But it doesn't stop you from being a carrier, and it doesn't stop you from getting the virus at all. It's potentially life-saving, but because we are still learning about how it spreads from person to person, still need to be a team player, follow government guidelines, wear your mask, wash your hands, protect the NHS, do the dishes, watch a good film, order Lena a pizza. Oh, I'm just getting on to things that I want you to do now. It won't stop the spread, it will just stop people dying. Essentially, the vaccine is there to prevent you. How do I do eyeliner and tell you about a deadly virus? It's there to protect you. It'll stop you getting as seriously ill as you would have done had you not had the vaccine, and therefore it reduces the amount of people that need to be hospitalised. But the vaccine is part of a two-pronged approach. One prong is vaccine, other prong is stop going near people until we've sorted this out. There's your pincer, get your toy. That wasn't NHS approved, that was just a silly joke by me. You should call the NHS if you want one and you haven't been invited. I'm losing my attention span, so I'm going to attempt to do my mascara without a mirror and without wearing my glasses. So please enjoy this entertainment while I answer the rest of this question. Every adult who wants the vaccine will get it eventually. If you haven't been invited yet, doesn't mean that they've forgotten about you. I'm doing quite well at this. You can check the NHS website to keep up to date with who is being invited right now. At the time that you're watching this, sweating. And this is just my note. As you can imagine, GPs are really bloody busy at the moment. I promise. It is not that you have been forgotten. It's just that they're working through a priority list that you can find out about on the website. My personal plea would be, please don't clog the phone lines trying to hop a queue. Thank you. This message has been approved by me and not the NHS. That was just anti-Lena to you. The effects wear off fast. Maybe 3 months, and we'll have to keep taking it, and or people have been saying COVID mutates too fast for the vaccine to be of any use. It's too early to tell, we actually don't know, but isn't it worth just having it? Again, we're going to talk to Nikita.
Well, I guess there's two parts to that, and I can understand people being worried about that, but we don't know yet. We're doing testing all the time, so we might well need to have the COVID vaccine every year, which is what we do with flu, isn't it? And some other vaccines that we get if we're going travelling, you often have to have those vaccines again as well. But it's way too early to tell at the moment. What happens with the flu vaccine is that the vaccine is changed every year to handle any variations in the virus, and that might be the same for COVID. But either way, even if it only lasts for a short amount of time, the protection only lasts for a short amount of time, that still protects you from getting COVID, of any grade, which might give a longer term, long COVID or post-COVID set of symptoms, or might mean that you end up in hospital or dying. So even if it protects you for a shorter amount of time and we need to do another vaccine round in another year, it's still keeping you safe.
It works better in some age groups than in others. I was interested in this question, actually. I would like to know whether it's as effective on me, self-preserving as I am. But apparently, according to the studies, age doesn't really affect how effective it is for you. So that's good. The 3-month gap between the vaccines will be detrimental to its effectiveness. For those of you who aren't in the UK, people are currently getting their vaccines with a 3-month gap in between. It doesn't mean it's not worth it, and it actually means we're giving the greatest amount of people what has been shown to be significant protection from the virus at a greater pace than we would have been able to had we given a fewer number of people 2 vaccines in quicker succession. Following? Because I'm not, I am. God, this colour is an effervescent, vibrant, very cool. So both the Oxford and the AstraZeneca vaccine show they will protect people at a high level with the first dose. You do eventually need the second dose. Please take the second dose. But just because there's a 3-month gap between the 2 vaccines doesn't mean that it's not doing anything. And the goal is to protect as many people as possible from death and also from hospitalisation. So that's what they're doing with the tools that they have. Once you get it, you won't need to wear a mask. Again, you are contagious. You can carry the virus. So while it does significantly protect an individual person, you could easily pass it on to somebody who hasn't been vaccinated. So essentially, Nice try, but put your mask back on, Sonny Jim. I'm going to attempt to do these nice little baubles on the virus. Let's see how that goes. One of my favourite things about this year is that once I do some strange doodles on my face, I don't have to have feedback from the rest of the world about it. I can just stay indoors, save the NHS, and look subjectively amazing. Potentially should have plucked my eyebrows for this, but that would involve foresight. Come auditioning for the Clangers the musical. No, I haven't been to a musical in so long. I would take Clangers the musical. If that was the only tickets available, I'd go. Apparently I won't be able to watch it because I'll be in it. And the final question from somebody who has their priorities straight. Do you get a sticker after you get your vaccine? And the answer, if you've noticed the pattern, is no. I'm kidding! The answer to this one is actually yes, you do get a sticker. There are no bounds to my excitement. But if you don't get a sticker, there are stickers that you can use on your Instagram stories to tell people and celebrate that you've had the vaccine. How fun is that? Or a sticker to let people know that you will be getting the vaccine when it is your turn. You just need to search NHS COVID vaccine on your gifts and go ham. I feel like if the virus wore earrings, it would be these ones. I hope you found this a good kind of porthole into all the information you could access about the vaccine and a little kind of overview of some home truths. This is my visual coronavirus look, but because everybody likes to round off a good story, here comes the vaccine. It's NHS coloured. Aren't you glad that your tax money paid for my education? Bargain, I'd say. Apart from Craig, you're probably the only person who's seen me this close up all year. This video is a little bit different from some of my other content, but I hope it was in some way useful to you because that's all I want to be. There is lots of misinformation around on the internet. You shouldn't be ashamed for being caught up in it or shame other people for being misled. What does James O'Brien say? Contempt for the con man, compassion for the conned. Thank you so much to the NHS digital team and to Nikita for helping me with this video and fact checking it all. This video and all of my other videos are free to watch, but they are made possible by the Gumption Club, who tip me per video to make sure they keep happening. Thank you to them. If you haven't been here before and you'd like to be here again, do subscribe, and until next time, Frogs Nog out.